Hickok 45 here, and guess who's with us?
Bud Wells.
Bud Wells. Now, we have talked Bud Wells into chatting with us a little bit, and he just happened to be in the neighborhood. We saw him walking through the field over here and said, hey, come on over here. No, actually, you saw Bud in the FAQ we did recently, probably. You better have. And that was actually Bud of Bud's Gun Shop, right? And you are Bud of Bud's Gun Shop.
I am.
He is, okay. Now, Bud acts like he's not going to be someone that's going to talk much, but you just wait. He's going to tell us some stories. And that's the main reason that Bud is here. He is just, he is a treasure trove of stories and the history of the gun business in my lifetime and his lifetime. And so we thought y'all might find it interesting because we do get that question a lot. Is there really a Bud's? Because, Bud's has become, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, online retailer, at least independent retailers in the nation. And of course we work with them. They help us a lot. And we have met Bud several times, and we've had dinner with him, and we've talked to him, and we find him a very interesting fellow. And we thought we'd try to get him to talk to you a little bit and share some. I'm gonna try not to talk too much. Just want to let you know why we're here and why Bud is here. So we've invited him to kind of share some of his experiences in the firearms industry, which parallels mine, except he was actually in business and I was not. So Bud, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
I'm not a very good interviewer, but I'm not a journalist or anything. I'm just a goofball that shoots in the woods. Have you ever seen one of our videos?
I have.
So I'm not very smart, right?
Right.
So you got started in the gun business a long time ago. So maybe we just start with kind of, maybe our viewers will find it interesting, how you got started and, when it was and how you got started.
I got started in the early 70s, and actually I had no interest in guns, and a friend of mine that I worked with he was in the process of building muzzle loaders, no black powder guns, and he taught me into going into a store and supplying parts to build muzzle loaders and selling black powder and black powder accessories. And he and I started, I guess, it's the very early 70s, and had us a little building, and we'd sell the barrels and the wood blanks and frisons and all these little parts to build these guns.
That was in Kentucky, right?
That was in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
We were both employed at the same place, and actually he taught me into going in it, and then about I guess a month later, after we got our building and got put in there, he had some other business that he had to tend to, and I ended up in a muzzleloading store by myself that I didn't know anything about, so I had to start reading, and that's the way I got involved in the gun business. I had to have a firearms license to sell the black powder and stuff. So.
Oh, you did?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's right, the powder, yeah.
Powder. So then I found out you could order guns with the license. I learned it all the hard way.
Yeah.
So
black powder got you into it, huh?
Yeah, I sold a lot of black powder.
You probably sold a lot of Thompson Center stuff, or?
Sold a lot of Thompson Center, and after a while CVA come out, Connecticut Valley Arms.
Yeah.
Got a lot around, just, there was a lot of people that were shooting, a lot of people building guns at that time.
Well, the hunting seasons had just, I think, started, hadn't they, for black powder?
They had started at the end. They had their own season, and there was a lot of matches. We'd go to different counties. They all had most of them had a little muzzleloading club and we would compete, shoot for groceries, some of the nation's best muzzleloaders were around central Kentucky.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, they were. Some of them held world records and stuff. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those, but there were some really good shooters, and they were all just a good bunch of people. Yeah, it was kind of a.
Well, Kentucky and Tennessee, famous for shooters. My dad would always tell the story about being in he was in World War II and being on the line training to shoot, and the drill sergeant came over there and kicked him in the back of the leg. They were down prone shooting, he and his buddy from Tennessee. And he said, "Where y'all from?" And my dad said Kentucky, and his buddy said Tennessee. Well, I should have known. Y'all are hitting the target, So,
right.
Famous for being able to shoot if you're from Kentucky or Tennessee. So you were starting out in the black powder, and then you say you had an FFL, so you
Yes,
started
sir.
ordering real guns.
Real guns, and
Yeah.
that was back when Smith and Wesson was the main gun at that time, and Colts, and some Ruger. Hard to get guns, and you could have a Model 60 or a Model 66 and sell them anywhere, but it was hard to sell the other products, and it was hard to get the guns that you could really sell. So
Yeah.
all the small dealers had trouble fighting that, but there was a lot of people, other people around that I knew that had shops, and a lot of them helped me. Believe it or
Yeah.
not, it was a lot different than today.
Yeah.
We would buy together, and I had several good friends that helped me a lot in the gun business.
Well, that reminds me, and I want to interrupt you because a fellow I know up in Clarksville, Tennessee, David Beta, if you remember the name, he owns a little gun shop up there, and I told him you were coming in this week, and I said, you don't happen to know him, do you? He said, yeah, I know him. He said, I called Bud Wells when I was thinking about starting a gun shop. It's Tennessee Gun Country in Clarksville, and he called several other people too, and he said you were really helpful in giving him advice about starting a gun shop, and he was impressed because he had called several gun shop owners, and all of them, for the most part, were very helpful, and he said you were, and see, you probably were helpful to a lot of people. You probably don't even remember that.
Well, I don't remember that, but in the 70s and 80s, most of the gun stores had respect for each other.
Yeah.
And, you might have that one that you couldn't get along with, or he didn't like the way you were selling your products. And I was kind of a giveaway artist, they call me. I would try to entice people into my stores with low prices.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would use hard to get guns and products that normally you could get more money for.
Yeah.
I just thought it worked better if maybe I used them as a giveaway to make people talk a little bit more and maybe
That's
want to
right.
come to the store to see why I was so crazy.
That's good business.
And,
yeah. People do that.
And they would buy other products, and I'd try to make some money off of them.
You didn't sell any of those Model 29s back in the 70s for like $200, did you?
No, I didn't get that carried away. But you could take a Model 60, and you could give a man a deal on a Model 60 or a 29, and he might buy some other products and pay you what you was really wanting for them,
Yeah.
as long as you took care of him on the hard to get.
So you had a little shop there in Lexington?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Reloading was a huge part of our business at that time, along with the black powder. A lot of people reloaded, all their hunting rounds, and people that shot a
Yeah.
lot, they reloaded their pistol ammo. That's the only way they could afford to shoot.
That's
It really
right.
was.
That's like say you parallel a lot of my experience because I got into black powder in the early. We just did a video on a Hawken rifle, and I talked a little bit about that in the early 70s. I got into that, and then I started hand loading about 74, 75, and I was buying a lot of reloading components and looking for a place to buy. And the thing is then, like now you can order all that stuff online. You can find anything you want,
Right.
have it shipped to your door. But and you still could then, I guess, Dixie Gun Works and places like that for black powder or even for modern components, but they just weren't as available. So I'm sure people were glad you sold that stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned Dixie Gun Works. That was owned by Turner Kirkland,
Yeah.
and Turner's where I spent my first $1,800 to get into the muzzleloading business.
Really?
I spent it all at Dixie Gun Works.
You're being attacked by a cat. Be
That's
careful.
okay.
Bud. This cat, he's funny about people from Kentucky.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you
get
gotta watch
attacked
him.
a lot. I've been attacked for a long time.
Come here, buddy. Well, you've been in the gun business. Well, and
That's
you've been
right.
successful. And Bud's is really successful, so guess what? You get attacked, right?
Well,
Come here, kitty.
I've spent a lot of time at it, and most of the success come in the latter years. I've had a lot of support. I've had a lot of good people, and my wife and my two sons were really good in it. They've all worked in the store with me.
Yeah.
Probably some of the best help I ever had was my wife and kids.
Really?
I had two boys that were really good, and they did it the right way, and I think they grew up the right
Yeah.
way.
You think that's a lot of the reason you're successful, just the people you hired?
I think so. I had a lot of good people, and of course, you don't win every time at bat, but I've been around some good people.
So you had the little store there in Lexington, and then I guess it just got bigger. or you did more business as time went on?
It did. I moved to a larger store, and then I went through a pretty tough year, and I sold the store and ended up in Paris, Kentucky, which is my hometown where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I run into a guy from Ashland, Kentucky, who was big in the safe business. And he and I joined forces for a while, and he helped me considerably. He was just a great person, and I got to doing gun safes, and the safes kind of overcome the gun business that was in a slack area at that time, period. And
yeah, you mentioned, we were talking earlier, I don't know, a month ago or something about that we figured out that the Cannon safe, my first gun safe I bought, was probably one you sold down at Specialty Arms in Laverne, Tennessee, right?
I sold John a lot of safes.
Did you?
Yeah, I've known John for a long time.
That was in the mid 80s, I think. I figured.
Laverne,
84.
Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. That's the neat thing about it. Even though you were up in Kentucky mostly, we know a lot of the same people.
Oh, we haul safes all over the country.
Man, what? Now that's work. Hauling guns is one thing.
We worked hard, and
and so the shop got bigger, and then of course now it's really large and quite an inventory in the brick and mortar store, and then of course the online. How did you get into the online? Was that when you were involved? I know you sold the store about 5 years ago. Or?
5 years ago, I sold it to two gentlemen.
Now they're in prison now, right?
No, they probably should be, but no, they're two fine young men.
Yeah, I know them both.
Joe Murphy and Rex McClanahan, and they were the right people to take it and go with it, and they've done an outstanding job, just super with it. Yeah. But first started dealing online, I think, was when Gun Broker came out, and every old man, everybody that had a gun, they quit bringing them to me to try to sell. They were putting them on Gun Broker, thinking they could get more money and having people auctioning, and it kind of aroused my suspicions on what was going on with all this computer stuff, which I know nothing about. And there was a young man in Lexington that worked at a pawn shop, and I had a conversation with him. He was telling me how much money he was making by selling guns at Gun Broker. Yeah. So I hired him. I'm always interested in somebody that knew how to make money, and he became an employee, and I had him putting guns online at Gun Broker, and we sold quite a few guns. And then I had the idea of maybe having our own website or doing something like that. And everybody said, "Bud, that won't work," said, because you cannot sell a gun online. And I said, well, I believe the people will work. I think other dealers would charge 10 or 15, 20 bucks and pass the gun on to their customer, regardless of where they were. Everybody kept telling me, no, no, no. So I went on and pursued it, and we talked to a distributor that worked with us real well, and we got to put his products online. I said, boy, this is good. I said, if we can get them coming, we don't even have to buy it and stock it until after we sell it. I said, this would be a great thing. And everybody told me how crazy I was again. So we started it. It took off. We put budsgunshop.com as our mailing address for the things that we were selling to other people. Yeah. Well, when people see that .com, they just figure we may have a website. Yeah. They got on there, and we seen the orders start trickling in, because now they're getting away the fee that they had to pay for buying the gun somewhere else. Yeah. So they're saving a little money. We're shipping out the guns, and it just starts kind of really mushrooming in on us. Yeah. And this young man, he really liked the idea so much that he left me with it. It took off, and he became quite successful and did a good job with it. And I had a friend at the time that knew Rex McClanahan, and Rex was, he told me how good Rex was on a computer. He had him really built up. So I went to a restaurant in Lexington and met Rex on the back porch. A little different type person than I'd been talking to, just blunt, no nonsense or anything. So I offered him a deal, and we talked about it. He didn't have to think about it. He said, yeah, I'll give it a try. And he showed up, I think, 2 days later. I think he was in the process of doing something with a house. He come back about 2 days later, and I think it's about the last words I ever said to him. He just took a hole, and I had 3 or 4 people in there were trying to package and ship out stuff, and he took over. Next thing I know, we're just getting run over with
orders.
With orders,
Yeah.
and
don't you hate it when that happens?
It
When
killed
you try
me.
to run a business, all these orders
Yeah.
coming in and causing work.
yeah, I actually could pay my bills. I had money in the bank, but he did a super job, and he and I talked, and I had sold part of my business to a gentleman, and Rex and I, I said, this is a good retail store for this guy, so we'll just go on this online sales and stuff. So we bought a little building in Lexington and pursued that. And then Joe Murphy came in. He's the other partner that now owns it. And he had been a customer of mine for years.
Oh, had he?
He had been a customer for a long time.
He's a real gun guy.
He is. He's a hunter, and he was one of them people. If he sees something, he bought it. So I had to lock him up. It was hard,
You don't mind? That's the ATF looking for you in that helicopter.
That's okay.
I don't think they can see you sitting here.
It won't be the first time.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
But Joe would come in, so I just finally settled up. I said, "What will you let me make off of you on a gun?" And that's basically how I got Joe's business. He just called me, tell me what kind of gun he wanted, and he would pay me what we realized on it.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy. I didn't have to wait on the money. He paid for it, and the gun was sold when I ordered it, or if I had it.
Huh.
And he came in. He showed interest in putting in a shooting range, and he built a monster. He built that big, nice range.
Yeah, it is nice.
I think you've been there.
Yeah.
And
so you haven't had the range all that long then? That's just been 5 or 6 years, or is it?
I think I don't know how long these ranges are. I had an older range in Paris, one that I built.
Yeah.
And but people could breathe in it, and it would work. We built it out of steel, and I'd go to there was a store in, I think it was in Ironton, Ohio. They cut up old car tires and stuff, and I'd go buy bales of this rubber that didn't have the metal in it from the trucks.
Yeah.
And we welded steel plates together and then covered it with rubber.
Yeah.
And
wow.
then we bought 6 or 7 old air conditioners to run the air through them and vent it out the other end.
Yeah.
It
Well,
worked.
it's nice up there now. Wow. So that kind of brings you up to where it is now. Is even though you're not involved now, it's got to be rewarding to see that it's become kind of the Walmart of gun sales in a lot of ways.
It's a classy operation. It really is. They've impressed me. I mean, I knew that it was going to be big, and it was big when I got rid of it. It afforded my wife and I a retirement per se, and I was thankful of that. And because I worried about that, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You don't make much retirement working for yourself. You have to figure out some way to develop it.
Yeah.
And
well, you earned it. You hustled for a lot of years.
I
You
did.
hustled, man.
And I had a lot of help.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't name all the people that have been. There was a tremendous amount of good people around the gun industry.
There are.
There was a lot of good people. I think there still is. I don't think you get to communicate with them. Maybe it's because of everything's done online and through computers, and you don't have to go to a distributor to order anything or cut a deal. You can do it online.
Yeah.
But
the human element has changed.
The human element's gone, and I like that better than I do now.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you were a great salesperson when you called on people, just from knowing you. I'm sure they were ready to buy whatever you had. Safes, guns.
Well, they all want me to give it to them. So,
Yeah, well, of course.
They liked me. I was pretty reasonable.
Really? Well, that's cool. Well, what were I always like to think back, and we talk about that in some of our videos about like my history, and as I have firearms that I bought back in the 70s or 80s, and that I still like or whatever, and I remember what was going on then. What do you have any remembrances of like memories of like the 70s that or even later, but firearms that you were all, well, you mentioned that a little bit, the Model 66s and things, but the firearms that that just really flew off the shelves, any more memories of specific models and things that you were always trying to get, and that people were coming in and trading or trying to get a hold of?
We've had one of the most successful experiences I've ever had in selling firearms happened after Rex was my partner, and I think this is before Joe come into the business.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be I won't mention the manufacturer because the way it's called up. We'd gone to a show, and I had a really good salesman for this manufacturer, and he approached us on this deal that this distributor had put out on, if you buy so many guns, you'd get so much percentage back, and all this. Well, virtually, with the amount of guns we were selling online at the time, mathematically it figured out that we could almost sell them at cost and almost be making the same markup we would always ready do. And so we bought quite a few of them, and I think it took less than 3 or 4 days before we had a representative from that manufacturer coming in telling us we could not do that. And of course, I always didn't like that. I asked him why, that they were our guns and we'd paid for them and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many guns we'd have sold if we hadn't honored. We didn't really cut a deal. They made it profitable for us to quit doing that particular deal.
Yeah.
And then the other one I can remember is Rex had started ironing out all the computer deals, and we was putting different people's all their inventory online. And there was a little gun that was hard to get. It was a Russian, I think it was 7.62 but 54R or something, Mosin Nagant,
yeah.
some kind of little cheap rifle that actually worked.
Oh yeah,
and
popular.
For the money, it was a good gun.
Yeah.
They were hard to get, even though they were a cheap gun. So all our orders would filter into maybe one of these distributors, and then they got to where they were sending the guns for us at that time. And I think since then they've changed these policies and stuff. I don't know how it's done now. I don't ask the people. I'm out of the business.
Yeah.
But anyway, this particular time I knew how this worked. They had gotten in a couple of containers of those guns. And of course they had standing orders for all the guns. But I think we woke up the next morning, and I think Rex and I were somewhere, and he had his little phone there that he could tell what time it was, what temperature it is in Hawaii, and tell him all this stuff. And he looked, he said, "Bud," I said, "What?" He said, "Do we own 1,000?
Mosin the gun.
I said, "I hope not." He said, "Well, that's what we sold last night." Well, the system had pulled all those guns out of the distributor before it got to the distributor's customers, and they had been put on the truck and mailed to the customers.
Really?
It worked out for us, but that's the most amazing day that I can remember.
That might be why y'all had all those Mosin crates when we were up there that time. Remember, that was about 4 or 5 years ago. We came home with a couple.
Oh, I don't know how many of those guns we sold. We sold a lot. And we did a lot of. We'd buy different from other people.
Well, you probably ran across some big deals along the way, didn't you? And
the biggest deal that I know of was we bought some used police guns, and I can't remember. As you get old, you forget everything. I don't know what country they were from, but it was all legal, and it was through a gun manufacturer. And I'm thinking, I might be wrong, but I'm thinking it was 2 or 3, maybe 4,000 guns. I knew I couldn't afford them. I bought them right about the time we was going online, but they told me how they were going to be shipped, so I was betting that I could sell the different segments. So I went on and committed to the biggest gun deal I ever committed in my life. Yeah. Betting that I could sell them before they come in. And
you don't remember what they were, what the guns they were?
They were, I'm pretty sure they were model 36 Smiths.
Oh, really? Okay.
3-inch.
38 specials.
A little odd, 38 specials. Or 64s. They were one of those.
Yeah.
But we had piles of them. And I knew they were going to come in beat up and banged up, but at the value that we got them at, I said, we can still make money.
Yeah.
They were probably the nicest bunch of used guns I've ever seen in my life. All of them were. They first come in without firing pins, so we had to go through that dilemma
Oh man.
to get firing pins in them. But the people that I purchased them from took care of that deal and put the firing pins in for us.
Really?
Didn't charge us no upcharge for it.
So these were old Smith and
These
Wessons.
were old Smith and
So
Wessons.
that was like the hammer-mounted firing pin, probably.
They were
On the
hammer mounted.
So,
They were.
Yeah, that'd be a job.
Had the rivet, you know.
Yeah, the
they
rivet.
went through.
Yeah.
And I think there was a few there when I sold out, but we sold them quite well.
Well, that's cool.
Probably
I
the
know-
biggest sale, and
Yeah.
and I understand that maybe they have latched onto a deal or two like that lately.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like Bud's almost always has Model 10 Smith and Wessons, or 38 specials, some of the used market or police trade-ins, and I bought a couple myself from them. They're just neat.
We've got I developed some law enforcement people that I could deal with, and they like the idea of getting all their money at one time or something later on. We could buy pretty large groups of guns, and we didn't cause them much trouble. I mean,
Yeah.
if we found one with a cracked handle, we didn't send it back to them wanting it fixed, and they like doing business with us because of that.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed about just Bud's and I'd say short history. I mean, I've known about Bud's for a long time. In fact, I used to go to, before I met any of you all, and when we were doing YouTube in the early days, and someone would write me and ask me, "What's this gun sell for?" What is it? I would, well, I don't know what the price on that thing is, or I'm just studying, researching a gun. I would go to your all's website and just see what your price was, because I know you may not be the lowest price in the world. You're not necessarily trying to be the lowest price on the planet, but I know that's pretty low price. Okay, that you can get it for that, and that's about as low as you're going to get probably. And I would just use that as a reference, and so it's been really valuable. And then those guns like that, just knowing they're going to be there, that you're going to have those used guns has always been cool. And I was going to make another point I forgot. I'm getting old too.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah, I'm really old. In earlier years, I tried to buy the business, like I told you. But
Yeah.
as Bud's has gotten into the position it is now, I've noticed they might not be the cheapest.
Yeah.
But the other thing they have built up, as far as customer satisfaction,
Yeah.
and if a person has a problem, and that's one thing that was carried on that I do appreciate, I try to take care of
Yeah.
at my expense. A lot of times when I know the customer's wrong, I've tried to make it right and everything.
Yeah.
Some people most of them you can satisfy, and there's some of them that are never satisfied.
Somebody you can't, some you can't, and they're always going to go online and complain. Yeah.
But absolutely, I had my share of complaints from some real jewels online.
Well, that comes from being successful. In fact, that's what point I was going to make. I know you're talking about buying those lots of guns like that and looking for good buys like that. And of course, that's the advantage of being successful. Nothing succeeds like success. You have some cash, and you can make those big buys when they come up. And then you can pass those on to your customers. There might be some old guns or interesting guns, used guns, police trade-ins, whatever they are. Whereas a smaller shop, they'd like to buy 200 of those trade-ins, but they can't do it. And of course, like I say, I often use it's maybe not a good analogy, but I'll often say that you guys are kind of like the Walmart of firearms in that people sometimes people that are looking for something to hate, they can hate on Walmart or whoever's the most successful, and that's just part of human nature. But and lots of times it is maybe a small gun shop that they have trouble competing with larger gun shops, and they're ill about that.
A lot of times they worry more about competing than taking care
Of their own
business and making sure they satisfy the customers they have.
Right.
You can't grow any business if you're making more people mad by talking about somebody else instead of just cultivating a following. And that's what you're doing.
You're worried about other people more than your own
I'm sure
business.
Bud's loses a gun every now and then because somebody's got it $20, $30 cheaper or whatever. But I'd say on the whole, if this guy buys more than 1-2 guns a year, I'd say Bud's is going to get one of them.
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, he knows he's going to get the gun. He knows that if the gun comes in wrong, that they're going to take care of it.
Yeah.
They're just, I'm sure that it's the same way it was when I was there, that they make it
Yeah,
easy to
I
do
think-
business
I think
with.
So you're always going to find. I mean, when you're selling that many, you're not going to be perfect, but yeah, they seem to do a good job. I hear from people. Oh, you hear a sore head occasionally, but I hear from people all the time. Say, yeah, I bought that at Bud's, or you're right about Bud's. I bought a couple of guns there. I saw a message this morning like that. I bought 3-4 guns from them, and by and large, they still do a good job. So,
Well,
but
anytime I'm in a real good mood, I could get on YouTube, and there's one. I've got a couple of good cousins, so I can turn on there and still hear that. And that was from
Yeah.
7 and 8 years ago, but they're
Yeah.
still on there, and I like to hear that in case my ego gets going or something.
Well, who were your biggest back in the '80s and whenever? Who were your biggest competitors? You didn't really have the online business going when you had your gun shop. Were there other large gun shops, bigger ones than Lexington or the area where
gosh.
you were in? Or
I've always been the small apple around,
Have you?
and but when they closed on Sundays or Saturdays, or if it closed on holidays, I'd be in a truck, some gun show or somewhere. I
Yeah.
tried to take advantage of. No, there has been some really nice stores in my area. A lot of different distributors back there then, and a lot of them had stores. There was
Yeah.
people that you might remember, because
I probably
think
would,
you've been
yeah.
up there. There was, at the time, Outdoor Sports was the largest gun
Mm-hmm.
distributor, and there was George's Gun Shop in Louisville was a distributor of
I
mine.
remember that. I remember that shop.
My first Smith & Wessons and was from Bill Knapp Hardware. I ordered more
Oh, really?
Smiths from Bill Knapp the first 2 or 3 years, and people didn't even realize they sold guns. And
Huh.
of course, and then there was Willow Brinks. And these are
Oh yeah.
people don't have never heard those names.
Is Georgia still there? They still open?
George is he's
And-
been closed for probably 10 or 15 years.
I used to stop there sometimes on the way through Louisville.
Super people. George Hofferkamp and his wife and 2 daughters. They were just great people.
Yeah, seemed
He-
like it.
He helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of money with George,
Yeah.
but those
So
deals kinda
being
go.
in the business that long and everything, did you ever have not a uncover a problem, but is it one of the challenges in the firearms business that you don't have? You're selling light bulbs, I guess, or lumber, is of course the legal issues. Have you always been able to stay? Or has that ever been a challenge or
Oh,
frustrating?
When we first started, we had to log out ammunition, and people don't. I mean,
I remember the early 70s.
we had to fill out a form to sell a box of 22
Yeah.
rifle shells. We went through that. I kept every paper. None of them were ever used. I was
Yeah.
never called to, hey, who bought a box of 357 Western ammunition?
Yeah.
We went through that, and then we went through the waiting period.
Yeah.
We had that. The craziest thing I'd ever heard of, but that's what the feds wanted us to do. and that's
Especially in
what we had to
Kentucky,
do.
because
Right.
Kentucky's such a gun culture and people.
It actually, if it slowed down the sales, I really couldn't pay attention. It
Yeah.
sure caused a lot more paperwork.
Yeah.
And had a lot of guns laying around unpaid for, with somebody's
Just waiting on.
4473 laying there, and us waiting 3 days to see if
Yeah.
he gets a traffic ticket or something. I don't know how it was.
Yeah.
And then I thought they were going to solve it all when they was going to give a mandatory 10-year sentence for anybody stealing or breaking into a gun store. I think 3 days after that law was passed, I got broke into, and
Did you?
I think they've got about 40 guns from me. I mean, they actually a car tied to the front gate and pull the whole gate
Oh,
off of my
man.
store. and some guy tried to make a song about it because he run out of gas. So the next morning, the cops find the car and the gate all sitting out in the middle of the street.
That's
But
funny.
I think the most any of them stayed in jail was maybe 3 years, 2
Boy.
years.
And I lived during all this time period you're talking about, I was living in Franklin, Tennessee, and there was a gun shop out there. You may be familiar with it, Battleground Armory, if you remember that one there by the interstate. And they had a break-in one night and had a lot of guns in there. And these characters, they loaded up their car with the guns. They got around about half a mile away, and it was like the middle of the night. They stopped, and I don't know what they were going through the guns or something. and they parked under a electric pole. There was just at that moment, a transformer on that pole chose that moment to explode. And there is poetic justice. It exploded, and everybody in these houses not too where they looked out. Anyway, they caught him because that transformer exploded.
That's great.
But yeah,
But
it's a tough business. You've got it's like jewelry or something. People want it, and so there's a chance you're going to get broken in on. Kills your profit margin for a while there too.
Oh, absolutely. And
yeah.
and the ATF agents that I've had to deal with, I've been blessed.
Yeah. They're generally pretty good, aren't they?
They were all nice. They were all nice people, and basically all of them had common sense. I mean, you can't keep every little bitty decimal point.
Yeah.
But they would look it over, and they would tell you if you're doing a good job, and they'd tell you where, bud, you need to clean this little area up here or do something like that. Now, when they come into inventory check, that's one of the problems of getting larger. The more inventory you got, the bigger deal it is to come in and look the store over.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories. People have had some problems. Well, what about the like? You probably have been involved in all kinds of trades and everything. Anything come to mind? Just interesting? Any story you want to relate? I mean, feel free.
Every bad trade that can be done with the gun business, I've done it.
You've done it.
Yeah, one of the monumental ones I traded some guns for a truckload of soda pop.
You wanted a truckload of soda?
Oh, I thought I could make some money with it. I was going to end up with maybe a nickel, 10 cents a can, and none of them were Coca-Cola or Pepsi. It was all some off-brand stuff. But we stored it in the warehouse next door, which had no heat. So it all bursted when it froze up.
Oh, really?
So I lost all the pop and the floors. And then I traded. I ended up with a bunch of grocery supplies once, and I had all these cases of Skittles, which is candy, which is very popular today. But I would advise anyone, if they're going to trade for candy, to make sure it's been on the market before, because if they don't know what it is, you can't sell it or give it away to anybody. So the Skittles, I think my sons, they thought I was crazy, and they proved to be right.
They proved to be
right.
Well, that's the road to success often, though. There's going to be a lot of little steps along the way where you make some miscues.
But I've traded for automobiles and
like as individually or as a business?
As a business.
Just trying to make money?
They do it 44.73. If I think I could sell the car more than I could for the guns that they got.
Yeah.
But I found out I should just stick with guns.
Yeah.
Anything I've gotten away from besides guns, I lose on.
Well, I bet people love you if you were willing to trade. Because I've been in gun shops a lot. I've been a shooter for a long time, and people are always wanting to trade. They're always wanting to trade things. There are other guns, junk guns, and people who are really serious shooters, or they've got that fever. They would come into your shop, right? And they'd be trying to trade you a fishing rod or something. You ever have anybody try to do that kind of thing?
I've traded for it all.
You have?
I've traded for
individuals
for blacksmith tools. I'd trade for anything. And we got a lot of people. They come from everywhere, Eastern Kentucky and from Tennessee, Ohio. I mean, I had as many customers that come to us from Louisville and Northern Kentucky as I did Lexington when I was in Paris.
Yeah.
And my local business, as far as Paris was concerned, population of about 7,000 people. Probably didn't sell 2 guns a week there, but. You could check the license plates out in the parking lot, and they just come because they knew I'd flexible and trade. And a lot of gun stores would not trade. They put a price on their gun. I've got a new gun. If you want it, you pay me.
There you go.
Or if you want to give me your gun, I'll take it in trade. But I trade pretty fair, and I had a young man that's very successful in the gun business that owns a huge gun business. It was Centerfire Systems.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
I'll go on and mention his name. He was a good friend of mine. He would come in every Saturday and buy all my trades. And so we'd make a game of it. I'd put a blanket in behind the counter and I'd trade for a guy and tell him what to do, and then I'd just throw it over my shoulder. And we'd pile all those guns up, and Mike would come in and after hours and buy the guns. So,
well, I can imagine. I'd love to have been around. I guess I was never in your shop because I don't think I got to Paris, Kentucky, but and I did most of my prowl around buying and trading in Tennessee. But that's the kind of shop I always liked. Someone who's liable to run into anything in the shop. Maybe somebody's traded in, and then they're willing to trade. The Battleground Armory was that way in my early days of trading. But whereas some shops, if they're not going to trade, and and you don't have a lot of resources to just go in there and buy what you want. You really sort of need to find something to trade. I mean, they're just valuable shops. I'm sure you were popular because that's the way gun owners do. I mean, or shooters do. I will drive 50 miles just to go to a good gun shop that I haven't been to for a while, just because it's an interesting shop.
We've had we had several purchases. I think we've had about the last 20 Schofields that Smith & Wesson produced when they made that last run.
They brought that back, the real Smith & Wesson, yeah.
I had those guns when Mr. McClanahan come into the business, and I let them go awful cheap.
Oh, I wish I'd have gotten one.
Just to turn dollars. I wish I'd have kept one, and I didn't. And also, the PPC guns. I know that you used to shoot some silhouette and stuff, and one of the favorite calibers was 6 PPC and 22 PPC on the long range 200 yard, 300 yard rifle shooting.
Yeah.
And Seiko developed them. It was, I think, Dr. Lou Palcino, if I'm pronouncing the name right, he was one of. So somehow they sent me the first 4 guns, 1, 2, 3, 4 serial number of both calibers.
Really? Wow.
And I needed the money. I didn't take advantage of that situation either. They'd be very collectible. I've had those guns.
Oh, you've had a lot of collectible guns come through your shop.
I have. I never could afford.
You wish you'd have stuck them in the safe.
I couldn't afford to take them home. I was making a living. I was trying to support my wife.
Yeah. Well, you're a hustler, no doubt about it, and it paid off. And it's be the same for whatever you were doing.
It's been very enjoyable, and I wouldn't trade what I've done.
So you don't miss being in the business now?
I do not. I still, if I see an old garage sale or something, or if I'll find something, I still think I'd like to just maybe buy something.
You have to watch yourself. You go buy some guns, right?
Oh, I would do it.
Yeah.
And I probably, I still like to buy and sell.
Yeah.
Guns is just what I was better at them than I am the other stuff that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I've been trying to dabble in some.
You got a golf course now, don't you?
Well, I'm in the process of trying to sell it. That was one of my other purchases.
Yeah.
And
I heard you were a professional. You golfed on the professional circuit. Is that true?
I'm the worst golfer that ever been on land. Yeah, it's.
So you don't drive. Well, I know you get over to the gun shop occasionally. Probably you don't ever have a tinge. Oh man, I wish I was back in the gun business.
No. I kind of like to just dally around in it, but I would never have another store. I can't walk. I can't. I've lost a lot of my health, and I'm not smart enough to run online. I could probably find somebody to find me another Rex or something.
Yeah.
But I think that market. I think it's just like some of the other things. I think if you was going to do that, you should have done it.
Gun business?
The online sales and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the only vacancies left in this business is if you and I could invent another gun that nobody knows about that would outshoot everything, manufacturing or building a product that's you just have to come with a new screwdriver, something that works.
Yeah.
But it's hard to. I mean, Bud's is, in my way of thinking, is probably the largest gun retailer to my knowledge that's out there.
Yeah.
And after hearing some of the things, excuse me, that they have changed, I would find them very difficult to compete with.
Yeah.
You might be able to buy a load of guns and sell them cheaper than Bud's, but they've got so many different angles.
Yeah.
They've got it covered. When you're leaving that website, you're going to get questioned about something, and it's all going to be. Everything is looked at to be beneficial to the buyer.
Yeah, there are a lot of specials and things.
Yes, and giving him information about the guns, or if he's got a technicality question of somebody's there to answer. If you have any questions about laws, they're there.
Yeah.
They've worked hard and they've got it covered.
Yeah.
And they had to, and to a certain extent, liabilities are great in this business, as you know.
And it's competitive. There's a lot of people in the business selling guns and everything.
A lot of people with big money that
Yeah.
can invest in the businesses
Mm-hmm.
to compete.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're right. It's tough to start up something
It
new
would
when
be
you've
a
got
tough
other
deal.
entities that have taken it to a high level. It's tough to compete, and so and again, that's why there's a certain amount of envy, right? I mean, I'm envious. I wish I'd started.
well, I kind of wished I was a YouTube expert.
Oh, do you?
They're the ones that have
Well-
really done well.
YouTube expert. Now,
Yeah.
now we might have quite a few views on YouTube, but that doesn't make us experts, okay, in anything. So we're jacks of all trades.
The only people that's walked up to my table while I was eating in the last 5 years, since I have nothing to offer, was when you and your son were sitting at the table with me. Everybody wanted my autograph. They were looking for.
Yeah, well, it's mainly because I'm so handsome. That happens. That's always happened to me. If I was in a restaurant somewhere, it's man, that guy's got to be a movie star.
No, it's very enjoyable.
No,
And it's the gun business. It's been good to me.
it's fun, and like you said, there's so many good people in it. I've said that for years, and the various podcasts and stuff we do. How generally speaking, it's most of the people you meet are good people. There's exceptions, but most of them are good people. The folks you go out and shoot with, whether they're duck hunting, whatever they're doing, or whatever their interest is, they're just good folks, And the people in the business, same way. Yeah.
Well, you're done. It's
No, man.
Tennessee. I guess in the last 5 or 6 years that I was talking about competitive shooting, and they started I think the sporting clay and the shot shell and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's starting to develop back from what I'm hearing, that it's picking up again.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of colleges have got shooting teams, and
I do.
so maybe some of those days are coming back and getting more.
Well, shooting is so mainstream now, and of course we see it every day, every minute. People, it's just part of it's video games, firearms and those,
Right.
and it's YouTube, it's the videos online, and it's. I think we're always going to have the political battles, but there's a lot of people getting into it every day, more and more, and I think it's really strong as it's ever been. It really is. But anyway, it's interesting just to hear you talk about the old days. I hope it's interesting to some of our viewers because what Bud talks about in those times are the times I was, getting into firearms, and in fact, my guess is Bud probably set up at a gun show, probably in Lexington or somewhere. And I'll bet you I have actually talked to you and didn't know it, back in the 80s or 90s or
We
2000.
We set up in Cincinnati and Lexington.
Yeah, I'll bet you.
Just
I might have even bought a gun from you. In fact, I think I did. You charged me way too much for it too.
Did you? I think I still have your check where I couldn't
Oh,
get
that's the one
cash.
that bounced. That's
Maybe
why I wrote a
I
badge.
charged you too much.
That would be funny if we could. I bet you I did. I probably talked to you. I maybe even traded a gun with you or something. Who knows? But
We did a lot of shows.
Yeah, because I go to a lot of gun shows.
I haven't been. I think I'm going to start. I got me a little tricycle now and ride it around.
Yeah, there you go. You need to get back to the gun shows. Get back into business. I think you could start a business right there in Lexington and compete with anybody there. Don't you?
Would you like to finance it?
Yeah, I'll write you a check for $59 and we'll get you
That's
going.
probably more than I had when I started the first one.
Anyway, it's neat to be able to talk to the real Bud of Bud's Gun Shop and .com. As a gun nut myself, and having been involved in it for so long, and having been in your shops I used to stop coming through Lexington in the shop there before I knew Rex or Joe or anybody or any of you all. And I've heard more about you all than any other in terms of experience, personal experience. It's mostly been online the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever. People asking about Bud's Gun Shop or telling me they buy there or whatever it is. So we're happy that we get support from you guys. And we don't really mean for this to be a shameless plug, but I guess if it is, it is. We wanted to get you on video. We don't know where we'll post this, whether it's on the main channel or Hickok 45 and Son, or we might post it on just the what's it called, John? The dark web. Yeah, we might put it on the dark web. You know what the dark web is?
That's probably where I belong. I don't know what the dark web is, but I would have to put a plug in for them. That it's run by two awful fine gentlemen. They're doing a super job,
they
and
are.
and they really are, and
Yeah.
they'll be tough to beat.
Well, yeah, that's right. It's a competitive business, but you're right. Joe and Rex are good folks. So anyway, I guess we ought to let them go. These viewers, they fall asleep after about 10 minutes anyway, so they haven't heard most of what we've said.
They last longer with you than they do me.
I don't know about that. It's great to have you. It's really great to have you here at the compound, and at the
Beautiful.
range.
I enjoy it.
And everything here at the log house at the home base, and we're going to make you shoot a 500 Magnum maybe before you leave.
I'll have to come back.
Okay, come back for that. Okay, well, it's been good to see you again, bud.
I
You
see
take
you.
care, and you all know what I'm going to say. Life is good.